Diodorus Siculus, Introduction to Books I 34. After the preface to his whole work, Diodorus describes the origin of animal life, and then, since Egypt is the country where mythology places the origin of the gods, 1.96, and since animal life appeared first of all, 1.102, in that country, he devotes the entire first book to the gods, kings, laws, and customs of that land. His interest in religion causes him to pay more attention to that subject than to political institutions and military affairs, in marked contrast to his later books. As for his literary sources, he is generally held to have drawn primarily upon Hecataeus of Abdera, who visited Egypt early in the 3rd century BCE for his account of the customs of the Egyptians upon Agatharchides of Cadiz, an historian and geographer of the 2nd century BCE for his geographical data and especially for the description of the Nile, CC 32:41.3, and upon Herodotus. He also mentions what is told by the priests of Egypt and natives of Ethiopia, and it is entirely possible that many a detail was picked up by personal observation and inquiry. By the time of his visit, Greek had been the official language of the land for nearly 300 years and was widely used in the better circles, and hence he was not in such danger of being imposed upon by guides and priests as was Herodotus. In the opening chapters of the second book, Diodorus moves to Asia and Assyrian affairs. Most of his material was drawn from Ctesias of Cnidus, who spent 17 years as physician at the court of the Persian king Artaxerxes Memnon. Returning to Greece sometime after 390 BC, Ctesias wrote a Persica in 23 books, the first 6 of which dealt with Assyrian and Median history. Whether Diodorus used Ctesias directly or through a medium is still a question. He also used Cleitarchus and certain of those who, at a later time, crossed into Asia with Alexander, 2.73. Incidentally, he quotes from a particular Athenaeus, otherwise unknown, and certain other historians, 2.23, to the effect that Semiramis was nothing more than a beautiful courtesan. While there is some shadowy outline of the long history of Egypt in Book I, what Diodorus, or rather Ctesias, Cleitarchus, and others, has to offer on Babylonian history is scarcely deserving of the name. It is astonishing to observe that a writer with the opportunities which Ctesias enjoyed should have been content to do little more than pass on the folk tales which constitute the history of the Assyrian Empire into the daily widening field of the history of Egypt and Babylonia, which is the theme of this volume of Diodorus, and in which many dates change from year to year, and many are still the subject of controversy among competent Orientalists. A classicist enters with extreme reluctance. It has seemed a better policy to draw upon the latest general survey of this period, the Cambridge Ancient History, for the chronology, recognizing at the same time that even the contributors to this single enterprise are not always in agreement. The Loeb editor's note: 1. Keep. P. Schnabel, Berossos, and Die Babylonische Hellenistische Literatur, Leipzig, 1923, 34. Images with borders lead to more information. The thicker the border, the more information. Details here, up to Diodorus Siculus, Classical Texts, Lacusius Home. A page or image on this site is in the public domain only if its URL has a total of 1, if its URL has a total of 1. If the URL has 2 asterisks, the item is copyright someone else and used by permission or fair use. If the URL has none, the item is C. Bill Thayer. See my copyright page for details and contact information. Page updated, 5 Aug 16.